everybody!
Hi, guys. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we're going to talk about the shooting in Atlanta and the shooter and how he's a big old believer and what that means.
Yeah, I think we got a lot to say about what all that means. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't have a lot to say about it right now, but later I'll figure out some words to add to that conversation.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, in fact. But first, Dan.
Yes.
So we've brought up this guy before. Is the president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Actually, I said he is the president of Tanzania. No, he was the president of Tanzania. He's the big old COVID skeptic who about 2 weeks ago disappeared from the public's eye.
Right.
Couldn't be found anywhere, and everybody starts speculating, and the rumors start going around that he had caught the coronavirus.
Right.
And he's now dead.
Oh.
At the age of 61.
Ooh, that's young.
Yeah. And while it is not confirmed that it was COVID, because the government is, the people who surrounded him are all saying that it was a heart condition.
Right.
He's died of a heart condition. Yeah. That was exacerbated by COVID-19.
Right.
Right.
Heart conditions don't do well when also your everything else doesn't work.
Right. And I guess if you don't believe in COVID-19, then it didn't kill you, right? When some some system in your body shuts down.
Right.
But the reason I want to bring this up, and I don't want to get into the habit of being sort of happy when certain people die, but COVID has completely changed my perspective on this. And I think that if you, especially as the leader of a nation, if you spend your time now Tanzan, he's not just a denier. Let's back up on this. They did not do a lockdown of any kind, right? Right. And he's such of a skeptic because if you want, so you don't want to do a lockdown because you don't want to harm your economy. Okay. It's kind of an amoral stance to take, but you could make that argument.
You're at least admitting the bullshit
you're admitting
stance
what
you're
you're
taking.
doing. Right?
You're saying I'm going to trade lives for money, and
exactly.
that's my intention.
Right. But when you add on to it the fact that he had made fun of the Tanzania's coronavirus testing facilities, saying that he had secretly sent samples of papaya and goat and that they'd come out positive for the virus, which... I mean, who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe they were. I don't know. But highly unlikely that he actually did that.
Right.
Hello. Because he also never provided proof of his claim. Because why do you need proof? And that he used this as a warning, of course, to others that the results that people were getting were probably just false positives. Right?
I mean, basically, you're probably a papaya.
He also is responsible for the fact that the country stopped giving out coronavirus figures in May of last year.
Right.
So their official tally is that 509 people have contracted the virus, and 29 people have died. That's still their official number.
This is what Trump was talking about. If you don't do the tests, then you don't have the numbers, and you're winning.
Yeah. And so I bring it up. Like, when I saw this headline, I was just like, good.
Yeah.
Fucking good. It's about time. They got, I'm jealous, right? Tanzania got what we were deprived. Because Trump should have died.
The ironic death of their horrible leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We needed that. It's true. All right.
Oh, what a boon that would have been.
Oh man, we've become dark people. It's fine.
It's amazing what a year of isolation will do.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm going to take us to the Washington, D.C. area, which is home of Georgetown University, which is, I didn't realize I knew it was a private university. I did not realize it's a Jesuit university.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know specifically Jesuit, but I knew there was a Catholic connection.
Yeah. Here's another thing that I didn't know about that institution. They once were able to save themselves from certain financial ruin through a single act of just selling a bunch of assets. This happened back in the 1800s.
Okay.
And they were on the brink. And apparently the sale of 272 slaves that they owned saved them.
Oh.
Well, as it turns out, there's a lot of people who think that's not very cool.
Yeah.
Either that they owned slaves or that they sold them in order to, and they sold them down into Louisiana. So I'm guessing things didn't work out any better for the slaves having to go down to Louisiana. So this is a story that actually has like a shred of hope to it, maybe? Question mark for me.
Okay.
Because what happened was a group got together, a group of the descendants of these 272 enslaved people.
Right.
And got together, and they called themselves the Descendants Truth and Reconciliation Foundation. And they got together with Georgetown, and they said, hey, do something. You know what I mean? Like, make this right in some way. Find a way. Well, the Society of Jesus, which is, I think, what the Jesuits call themselves, has announced plans to raise $100 million for the descendants of these enslaved people. There are approximately 10,000 descendants who stand to benefit in some way from this fundraising plan. I don't know how they're planning on doing it, but that's just the first goal. Yeah. The stretch goal is to raise $1 billion.
Jesus.
So
wow.
At least they're talking the talk. It remains to be seen how much of that walk they're going to walk, but I think that's a really interesting precedent to set. It's not the first time this has happened. Actually, several Episcopal churches in Maryland committed hundreds of thousands of dollars to reparations and racial justice campaigns. Back in August of last year, apparently Middle Collegiate Church in New York pledged $200,000, which is about a tenth of its budget, to provide housing assistance and youth anti-racism training, which I think all of that's great. But I think $100 million goes a long way.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
So
it's an interesting, church does something wrong, raise money to fix it. I don't know that it would work for, Father O'Leary or whoever, fondled some kids. Right. But this is great. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my first thought seeing this was, well, how are they going to afford that with all of the money they have to pay out for the Father Leary thing? For the Father O'Leary, like every diocese, every Catholic organization on the planet is just hemorrhaging money because of scandals with pedophilia. But apparently apparently they feel confident they can raise money for other scandals as well.
Everybody help us out. Father O'Leary touched another one.
Right? Give extra on the collection plate this week. It's a weird thing,
but it would work.
But I mean, I love the idea that they're even talking about it. So I
think it's astounding. I was looking for something funny, and there really wasn't anything. That's
Yeah,
why
it's kind of just good.
it's just good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
So
Well,
there you go.
Dan.
Yeah.
Oh God, we have some serious assholes in the in Congress right now, Dan.
Really?
If you didn't know this, you heard it here first, everybody.
I know,
There are
nobody's ever said it
assholes
before.
in Congress.
So-
But there are 12 specific Republican members of Congress, the House of Representatives specifically, who have opposed giving congressional gold medals for the police who protected them on January 6th during the insurrection and the attack on the Capitol.
Wow.
Now, God, the reasons being...
and of course they've got good reasons. Thank God. I'm so glad that you're about to tell me about the good reasons that they have for opposing this. Because at first I was going to think, wow, they're being just dicks. But I'm glad that there are reasons. So good. Hit me.
No, they're really well thought out reasons.
Sure.
For one, so this is... Let me list who these people are first. I actually want to name their names. There are, like I said, 12 of them. There's Andy Biggs of Arizona, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, Andy Harris of Maryland, Lance Gooden of Texas, Matt Gaetz of Florida.
Oh, he's a peach.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Of course she
Georgia.
would be in there.
Louis Gomer or whatever, from Texas, Michael Cloud, Texas, Andrew S. Clyde, Georgia, Greg Stubbe, maybe, Florida, Bob Good from Virginia, and John Rose from Tennessee. So if I feel for you. If this,
I may have missed it. Were any of those above the Mason-Dixon line?
No. There was an Arizona though.
Well, that's still, yeah.
Yeah, but not in the same sort of historical context of
True.
the rest of those places.
But, I mean, it's no surprise that the vast majority of them are Southerners. Anyway, Go on with what you're saying. They have good reasons. Let's do it.
Good reasons. So they what they're objecting to is the use of the term insurrectionists in the resolution.
Oh, yes.
And this is Gates. He says
Why aren't they just using the correct word, which is patriots?
He says we had to combine it with these editorial comments about the January 6th sequence of events. And then we had to log roll it with this exhibit at the Smithsonian. And that was a little much for me. Others in the group object to the word temple in the resolution. Instead of simply being about honoring the Capitol Police, this is Representative Cloud, the Capitol Police who bravely protected the Capitol on January 6th, Speaker Pelosi included damaging language that unnecessarily weighs down the bill. The text refers to the Capitol as the temple of democracy. Simply put, it's not a temple. Okay. And Congress should not refer to it as one. The federal government is not a god.
Wow. You know what? I'm finding common cause. I'm suddenly there with you.
No.
You're right. I'm so glad that you're on board with the idea of making sure that we keep religion out of government. What a great idea. I think that's brilliant. Yes. The government's not religious. It's secular. Well done.
I know.
How do they not see that? How do they not see that that's the argument that he's making?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Let's see. Massey also also opposed the use of the word temple, saying that it was, quote, a little too sacrilegious for me. So I don't think it's what you're saying, right? They're not saying let's keep religion out of it. They're saying let's not sully religion by bringing government into the realm of religion.
What I'm saying is,
it's like,
you're right,
fucking
correct. Let's you know what we should do?
Put a wall up.
Let's just erect a wall of separation between church and state, and we'll just leave that there.
And then you don't have to worry about
And then
these
you
things.
don't have to worry, and we don't have to worry. That serves everybody.
But then also, simply put,
Don't do
just
an also.
the fact. No, I'm making a point here.
Oh, okay.
Just the fact that they're responding to the use of the word temple when they're not saying that it's like a temple dedicated to, some god or something. They're literally saying it's a temple of democracy. They're being figurative. They're being
That's
poetic,
a standard
right?
figurative statement.
Yes. And it's like nobody is like doing, religious rites in here, right? Toward this federal government god that you're trying, like, fuck off, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so-
Nobody's saying that. Nobody thinks anybody's saying that. You're just trying to find something to make hay about.
Yeah.
And attach Pelosi's name to it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, lest anybody worry, the resolution passed, what was it? 400 and however many to 12. 413 to 12. So these were the only people. But these are, this 12 is bad. These are bad people to be in government. They
gotta
are
be a
threat
special
to our
kind of
democracy.
dickhead.
Yeah.
To not want to give medals to the guys that risked their lives
Yeah.
for you specifically.
Yeah. And you're going to oppose it because of some dumb technicality that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's ugh.
Yeah. Pretty
Anyway.
gross.
Yep.
You can actually say all of those things and still vote for it. You can actually raise all of those objections and then be like, but yeah, I'll still vote for it, of course.
Because I'm a decent human being, right? Of course we bestow this honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna harp on. I said something nice about some Catholics earlier, and I really don't like the way that tastes in my mouth. So I'm going to shit on them now a little bit. And this is the big dogs. This is the Vatican.
Oh.
Which is a weird. It's weird that the Vatican, which, as people know, is a place. It is not a person.
No.
The Vatican is an institution and or a place.
Right.
Or you can call it a country. You can call it a city. It's many things, but none of those things are a person. But the Vatican released a statement about LGBTQ marriages specifically.
Oh.
Now, Pope Francis
Seems about time, actually, Dan, that they
finally
address this issue.
Well, they've actually had a lot of they've had a sort of task force working on this issue.
Oh, really?
They've had which has had a lot of back and forth. And of course Pope Francis has said a lot of nice sounding things about gay people.
Right.
And has sort of tried to soften the church's the church's stance. So what was one of the questions that was being asked of the church is, look, you don't want to marry gay people, okay, but could you bless their union?
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, that's a different thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's about being okay with gay marriage or whatever. It's just there's two people. They, for whatever reason, still care what the fucking Catholic Church thinks of them, even though they're gay. And they just want a blessing. Well, the Vatican has come out with their statement. No. They are decidedly not going to bless gay unions.
I am shocked.
Shocking.
I cannot believe this.
Right? I should have prepared you better. Are you sitting down?
Such a progressive organization.
We were all expecting it to go the other direction. How could this have happened? Right. Yeah. So apparently, the Vatican has said that, quote, since blessings on persons are in a relationship with the sacraments. That is, the blessings are in a relationship with the sacraments. The blessing of homosexual unions cannot be considered licit.
It's not licit.
No, it's illicit. They said that to bless a same-sex couple would, quote, constitute a certain imitation or analog of the nuptial blessing. And that's just not acceptable.
Well,
so
not.
there were some bishops, some priests that heartily disagreed with this.
Oh, really?
One Belgian bishop lashed out at the Catholic Church.
Really?
Said he felt shame for his church.
He was shocked.
Yeah. I think he was part of the Vatican, the 2015 Synod on Marriage and Family.
Oh, okay.
So he was in the room trying to make good things happen in the church. And he was not able to make that happen. So,
God.
So if you feel bad, all of you gay Catholics listening to this program, just understand that some dude in Belgium wants to apologize. So that's nice.
Well, I mean,
the Bishop of Antwerp.
Nice. Oh, Antwerp. Antwerp's a nice town.
Oh yeah. I hear it's beautiful there.
All right, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring us back to our lovely Deseret, or Utah.
Here in Utah. Land of the honeybee.
Yes, where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh, I thought you always cue in with
the Mormon. Sorry, the Mormon. I was late. I apologize. I don't know what I was thinking. You guys know where that's from, right? You guys know, many of our listeners probably don't remember the television commercials that were kind of ubiquitous for a while.
Yeah.
That was like, this message is from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons.
Yeah.
They had that jaunty little, the Mormons. It was a delightful. That was back when they weren't like, don't say Mormons.
Right.
They're mad about it now.
So, if any of our listeners have been in downtown Salt Lake City recently, you might have noticed that the famous, actually, Salt Lake City Temple is undergoing renovation and for like seismic upgrades and whatnot. Like they've dug an amazing pit around this 1890s building, whatever it is.
Well, and they dug out from under it.
And they are retrofitting it. It's going to be like floating in case of an earthquake or whatever.
It's where I want to be if there's an earthquake now.
Well, and that actually brings up a good point, which is that the temple is closed to visitors. It is only members in good standing, and even, in good standing, who are able to get a temple recommend to go in and partake of the wonderful spiritual instruction that takes place there.
The beautiful sacrament that is the temple ceremony.
Exactly. And the Salt Lake City Temple has historically held on to a tradition. There's only one other temple that does this. They have live sessions, meaning they have actors who are portraying the roles in this little play thing that they're putting on that you're supposed to be learning from. And we don't need to get into the stories of like everything that's in it. But suffice it to say, it's like a 3.5 hour ordeal. And I went one time to see it, and okay, whatever, it was fine. It's just old people who are like volunteers at the temple acting out the parts of like Adam and Eve, right? It's
doing this terrible play.
You have to just suspend your disbelief.
And your attention span.
well, anyway, the LDS Church announced just this last week that they are part of the renovation. They are going to modernize both of these two remaining temples and switch to the filmed presentation version of the same horrible play.
Because let me tell you something. As the god-awful movie guys can tell you, Mormons can make a movie. They're real good at it.
Anyway, and it's sort of a little interactive thing, like the movie plays for a minute, and then like it'll stop after a little while, and then like the officiants, I can't remember what, the temple workers come around and they do their little handshaky things, and it's all really weird. And you have to like change your costume and everything halfway through it. Just look up the videos. It's amazing. But they're, by switching out to a filmed presentation, it means that people will no longer, because part of the old way of doing it is you would be in a room with these grand murals, right, that depicted sort of the space, right, that you were in, right? So there was like
each of the rooms represented one of the kingdoms of heaven.
Yes, and also like there was like the creation room, there was the garden room, right? The garden, like, so there was like, I think there was a creation room. That I might be conflating a couple things, but there was definitely like a garden room. And so it was like, there were like all these animals, like the Garden of Eden was painted all around you and everything, right?
Right.
And I'm sure in the 1890s, this was a great innovation, right? That it was like, oh, wow, we get to see, our imaginations can run forth, But nonetheless, they're not going to be getting up and moving around anymore to all of these rooms with these old murals. And so they'll just go in and you watch the whole presentation in one room. So instead of preserving all the murals and going and doing it in the garden room, you will, or whichever of the other rooms, they have decided just to strip the walls of these murals from the 1890s that they have painstakingly kept up and maintained for 130 years. And they're, like, okay, so it's behind locked doors and the public can't go see these things, but they're still important cultural artifacts. And the church,
and hundreds of people would go through and see them every day.
Yeah. And the church, in just sort of their grand, like, boring fashion, would just rather have the walls painted some shade of beige.
I'm pretty sure that the new Mormon aesthetic, and Mormonism has always had something of this, but they've moved even deeper into this in recent years. Their entire aesthetic is that interesting is a little too spicy for them.
Yeah. And they make this argument, and it's not made in this article, but like it's this thing where they don't want you to be distracted from, or their argument is that they don't want you to be distracted from what's important, right? So their chapels are just bland and boring because they want you focused on Jesus, right? Not the architecture.
Yeah,
right.
Because trust me, nothing makes you focus on Jesus more than just your eyes glazing over and crossing, and you're like, nobody's focused on Jesus. Yeah. At least when you go into a beautiful Catholic cathedral, you walk into Notre Dame, you notice Jesus. Yeah. Like you're thinking about Jesus.
No kidding. And what's great about a space like that is that because it is beautiful, right? Anybody can appreciate it and go and have a meaningful experience wandering around and looking at the art or looking at the sculpture or just the architecture or the stained glass windows or whatever, right? I love going to see big, beautiful old cathedrals, right? I love it. And I don't believe in Jesus.
Even cool new cathedrals, you see an amazing modern building.
Yes.
There can be something stunning about that.
Agreed.
And awe-inspiring. Yeah. Well, Mormons apparently are allergic to awe, so I'm very glad that they're getting rid of the murals. It might accidentally inspire someone.
I know. And they clearly at one time cared about these things, right? Yeah. The things that we're talking about here, about cathedrals. The Salt Lake Temple, there's a reason that tourists come to look at that temple, right? It's an interesting building. I wouldn't say it's a beautiful building, but it's an interesting building that you don't typically.
I kind of like it. I think it's a cool building.
I don't think it's all that great, but I like the other Pioneer era temples. I think like Manti and St. George, and like what's Logan. Those are really cool old buildings.
Yeah.
And you see old Mormon chapels around town that somehow have survived the wrecking ball because they love just to tear them down and put up one of their Motel 6 styled ones, right?
Yeah. And yes, by the way, European listeners, we know that our version of old is not actually old. Old for us. Give us a break. We're a new country.
Pioneer era, though.
Yeah, we're talking 18
or close
50s,
thereafter, like even like the early 1900 chapels.
Yep.
And they have no appreciation for it. They have to be forced into saving these old buildings.
No, I mean, as anyone who's studied Mormon history knows, they're not overly fond of their history. There's a lot of negative sides to their history, so I can see maybe why they associate their buildings with that.
There's something interesting there, actually. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. Anywho, that's very interesting. I am now going to talk about evangelical Christians here in these United States. And a very interesting study that came out recently, just published in the Journal for the Scientific Study of Religion, which is a journal I'm surprised I don't take. I feel like you and I should probably have a subscription to that journal. But anyway, this paper is titled, do I want to say the title? Yeah, here's the title. Linking evangelical subculture and phallically insecure masculinity using Google searches for male enhancement. Literally, what they've done is linked. They've controlled for a whole bunch of other possible links, and they've linked areas of the country with the number of evangelicals in that area and the number of Google searches for how to make your penis bigger.
What?
And apparently it lines up pretty solidly. There is a statistically significant lineup there, a correlation. Now, we all know that correlation is not causation.
Fair.
But the authors of this paper theorize that there is some sort of there is some sort of emphasis within the evangelical community on hypermasculinity, on big size, on manly men, and somehow the findings say there's important insight beyond the potential psychic damage that could be associated with subcultural views that equate masculine worth with physical size and strength, either centering on or symbolized by the penis.
Wow. I mean, just wow. I'm speechless. I'm trying to absorb.
Funny to me
this idea because
right?
because it doesn't it surprises me that somebody did the study so specific, right? But the findings don't really surprise me.
No. I mean, look, evangelical Christianity, as much as maybe any religion, but most religions are looking to find a way to make you feel inadequate.
Yeah.
It's how they get you. It's how the mind fuck works. You're not enough. You're not sufficient. You have to go through us to be okay, to be acceptable.
Right.
And so usually that takes the form of you're sinful, you're bad, and and often it's about sexuality. And I think we're going to talk a lot about the evangelical view of sexuality in our final segment today.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that it has played out this way and that evangelical men are apparently feeling so like belittled and so much pressure to have a big dong that they're like, what a sad thing that they literally, the messaging is so clear that you're not enough that it plays out in like guys' views of their own penis size.
Yeah. Wow.
Can we, by the way, as a rule, can we lay off of the whole big dick energy concept? Let's not ever equate big or small dicks with anything of worth or value, please, everybody.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's making men crazy.
Yeah.
And the last thing we need in this country is more crazy men.
Right.
We don't need any men feeling any more insecure and fragile than they already are.
Right. I mean, you can't make trucks any bigger. So like,
right.
Like, where are they going to go? They got to go they finally have to just get their penises enlarged. That's
yeah. So let's all just agree that like everybody's penis is great, just the way it is, and no longer make that a thing.
I really want to see like big dick Jesus though, like just like actual like big bulge Jesus.
He's out there.
He's up there.
He's out there.
He's up there on the cross, and there's just something peeking out under the loincloth.
They say he was hung.
I didn't even see that coming. How did I not see that coming?
Oh, there you go.
God, that's funny.
All right. Well, listen, kids. If you'd like to talk about your penis, that's a big no. Don't do that. No. But if you'd like to talk about anything else, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. We got more show coming up. Dan.
Hey.
There's a voice we haven't heard in a while on the show that we need to hear.
Well, yeah.
Because it's a wonderful voice.
I think we may have played him almost exactly a year ago. Because
early pandemic.
If you'll recall, this is 1 year. We're about at the 1 year mark when the United States started to lock the fuck down and everybody was talking about this pandemic.
Right.
And boy, did E.W. Jackson just know that he was going to be okay.
Right.
He had some shit to say about that. And we're going to play the shit that he had to say about that right now. By the way, thanks to Hammett Meta over the Friendly Atheist who put these two clips together. And now he has something different to say from this week. So we'll just do a little compare and contrast and see what we think about it.
I don't have the coronavirus. I'm not going to get the coronavirus. I'm not going to give anybody the coronavirus because I can't get it because I've talked to God about it and I've taken my vaccine and my vaccine is Psalm 91. I am free from that mess. Amen. Amen. And I declare you can be free from it too.
And now the recent clip.
Now, who knows? Every now and then you might get hit too. But you don't stay hit. Yeah, I had COVID, but I still tell you what, I didn't stay sick. You're looking at me right now. I'm doing just fine. I hear about all the lingering problems and symptoms. I didn't have any. Didn't have to go to the hospital. Didn't have to have a ventilator. And I'm 69 years old. It's because I believe in the healing power of God.
Oh, God.
That healing power of God, isn't that amazing?
It's it is amazing. It's powerful.
I really think he might have missed a bit of a trick there because he said before the thing he can't get it. But fine.
Well, at least he didn't die.
He didn't die, and he didn't go on a ventilator. So
oh God, so he
I
was
guess that Psalm 91 worked after all.
Right. So he was like the vast majority of people who get COVID-19, right?
Right.
And clearly a huge number of the people in this country who still cannot grasp the concept that it was never about you just getting the light version of it. It
Right.
was, and I should put that in quotes, the light version, because a lot of people who didn't wind up in the hospital still were very sick.
And he may
And
have
still
been
are
very
getting very sick, right? But nonetheless, that was never the point. The point was to stop the spread. Keep people from dying. Like, I was thinking about this earlier this week, Dan, which is this number of people, and I haven't been keeping track of it, but it's well over 500,000 people. And I was like, you know what? Like, I am going to have, because I was thinking about going back to normal, right? Oh, isn't it going to be great? We're going to be able to go out and be out in public and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but then I have to be around all those people that I'm going to have a really hard time forgiving, because though it is their reaction, right, that led to over 500,000 people dying.
Yeah.
There were going to be a lot of people no matter what, but it didn't have to be over 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to do some work here, because I have to figure out how to live in this country with these people.
I know. Well, I mean, the good news is, and maybe this isn't good news, you won't know who they are for the most part.
Every time I drive down to Utah County, I know who they are.
Well, that's true, but everyone in Utah County, I already hate anyway, so that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But what, and by the way, everybody, if you meet me and Frank and you disagree with us on masks, don't tell us. That's the advice. If you thought that the whole thing with COVID was bullshit, and I'm guessing you don't because you listen to us.
Right.
But if that happens to be your stance, yeah, it's really a good idea not to tell us about that. Anywho, hey, some folks decided to call into us. We had a bit of a snafu with the email recently.
God.
So if you sent something important to us,
And you probably
we're
did.
working on sorting it out. I am so sorry. But our email provider decided to play at some crazy shenanigans.
Yeah.
So we're working on transporting our stuff to a different email provider.
Yeah.
But for right now, shenanigans continue, and we're still in a bit of a quagmire. So bear with us.
Yeah. All right. So, but we did get some voicemails.
Yes, indeed.
So we want to play a couple of those. This first one is from Jesse. And Dan, do you remember this character Korihor from the Book of Mormon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jesse's got a question about that.
Hi, Frank and Dan. It's Jesse from Denver. I am soon to be Jesse of Grand Junction, so cross your fingers for me. I was listening to the Mommy Doomsday podcast, and they talk a little bit about Mormon theology. Specifically, they talk about Korihor, and that seems kind of significant, the Mormon Antichrist. So I got two questions. First of all, what was it like when you were growing up? Were you all scared of Mormon Antichrist? Is that a thing people are scared of? And then Korihor is just kind of a funny name. So I was just wondering if you guys call each other that for fun. Here's an example sentence. Dan, I can't believe you drank my last White Claw. Why do you have to be such a Korihor? Anyway, thanks. Love the show. Bye.
Wow. No, I can say I've actually never heard anyone use Korihor in that way.
But they should. And
it's a shame.
Also, from our perspective, kind of a compliment. Like,
right?
Korihor, I mean, he was just kind of an atheist character, right?
Yeah, he was the skeptic of the story.
And so, like, the Book of Mormon refers to him as an antichrist because he claimed that there would be no Christ, because this part of the Book of Mormon, that part of the Book of Mormon takes place before Jesus. And he goes, but one of the interesting things that is I thought such a great detail in the Korihor story is that he was able to preach these views because there was freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Right. And so like there's like this message in the Book of Mormon that I'd never really thought about, where it clearly prefers like churches and priests and whatnot being in charge, and not, just freedom of religion. Look what this guy got to do because of freedom of religion. He got to go around and say untrue things.
Right. He got to say whatever he wanted to say. What a horrible world this is that we live in.
I know. Amazing. Right. And then we have another listener who called in response to our call out for posing the question of who would you cancel from the Bible? And he's got an interesting one.
Hey guys, I love the show. Just calling to tell you who I want to cancel from the Bible. I'd like to cancel Nimrod, and I don't actually know anything about the character or whatever you call him, but it is my secret Mormon temple name. So, there you go.
Yeah, so everybody that goes through the Mormon temple, just as some background for all y'all, is everyone who goes through the Mormon temple gets a secret name, and they try to make it seem all special and like very unique to you.
It is.
And they don't tell you that it's the same name that they gave to everybody else that day.
Yeah.
But they're mostly biblical. Some of them are Book of Mormon names.
Well, for the women in particular, they're just pulling anything because there aren't enough names in the Book of Mormon
Right.
and the Bible of women, right? And so, so some of them are kind of early pioneer cultural, right? Like there's no Emma in the Bible or Book of Mormon, right? And I know that's one of them.
Oh yeah,
So,
there you go.
but
Named after Joseph Smith's wife.
yeah,
there.
exactly.
So yeah, Nimrod. I don't know that story either.
Yeah.
But it's a very funny thing, and I think that I'm gonna do.
But what a great you're sitting there. You're like, I'm getting my new name. This is so exciting. This is the name by which I will be called forth on the morning of the first resurrection.
Yeah, in heaven, this is how I'm going to be known.
Your new name is Nimrod.
Can I get another one?
Could I come?
Okay,
like,
now
tomorrow?
your new name is Poindexter. Yeah, Nimrod. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to do our listener a favor.
Okay.
And by using the holy Melchizedek priesthood, which I've never held, I erase the name Nimrod from your eternity and replace it with Korihor. Your new temple name is Korihor. Go forth and be fruitful and multiply. Or don't. Don't do that, actually. Or do whatever you want. Anyway, there you go. Do we have some people to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We actually have 3 new patrons this week that we need to thank. And these are people who went to thankgodimatheist.com and clicked on the support tab and then presumably signed up on Patreon. So we have 2 new deacons. We have Steve and Beatrice. So thank you so much to the both of you.
Thank you. Yeah, amazing.
And we have a new teacher by the name of Crystal. And so thank
Crystal.
you to you. These 3 now get to pass the sacrament and set up the sacrament. They're going to have a good time.
They hold the holy priesthood that you and I held when we were 12. It's very important stuff, you guys.
And
there. So that, first of all, you've got that kind of magic going for you.
Yeah.
Why do I get I do get a little bit of extra pleasure every time we pretend to give the priesthood to a woman.
I know.
Every time it just feels extra good.
Delightful.
So yay.
Well, and as always, Dan, we have to thank our top donor, Dan, and we got a new one recently. This is,
oh my God.
This is our Lord and Savior.
Hallowed be his name.
Austin. Dan.
Yes.
Dan.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Something horrible happened this week.
In this country?
In this country.
Never. We never get bad things happening in the best of all possible countries.
Yeah. And I'm sure everybody has heard about what happened in Atlanta with the
but if you haven't, just the briefest of recaps. A very young man, shocking to learn that he was a young white man, went into a series of massage parlors or spas and murdered people.
Right.
Just murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Mostly Asian women.
Yeah. Eight people were killed. 6 were Asian. Yeah.
So
and so there's the side of it that is responding to the rise in Asian hate in this country at the moment, and that I don't like. They haven't really gotten to his motives yet.
Right.
But
we can't speak to his motives.
But boy, the way that it's rocked the Asian community is just really awful. And it
thanks to fuckstick McLast president, like literally all of like the Asian community has been taking it on the chin for over a year, just because he wants to paint the pandemic as Kung flu and the China virus and all of this stuff. Yeah. And then all of his followers decided that means that every Asian person that they encounter should probably be harassed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely turned up the dial. It's not like America's been a great place to Asian Americans.
I mean, the racism existed before.
Right.
You're right.
Like, I mean, there's a problematic history, but nonetheless, that's not really what we want to talk about. We want to talk about this young man's 21-year-old, I believe he is.
Something like that.
The shooter. And what's sort of coming out now about what a religious nut job he is.
I mean, or at very least what we know is a very religious upbringing. He himself proclaimed himself to be very religious, very into his Baptist beliefs.
Well, but the thing, he's already on record for, his motivation, like what his stated motivation, which is he claims to be like a sex addict who sees these massage parlors, which, there are a lot of quote unquote massage parlors out there. And he sees them as temptations, right? For to go and have sex at these.
Right. Because a lot of the truth is that a lot of massage parlors, and these ones, I'm guessing he probably has been to them and had sex. Probably. A lot of them are kind of fronts for sex work.
Exactly.
Because So here's the thing. What we've got is a kid who has been told his whole life that his own sexuality and his drive to have sex is abhorrent.
Right.
His sexual urges are an affront to his God and are evil. And the problem, and look, I sympathize with young guys who feel sexually frustrated. It sounds to me like he had this venue where he could at least get some sort of relief from that frustration. It sounds like he was going to these places. We don't know that, but I'm guessing that's the case.
It would seem to follow. Yeah.
So, this is there's a lot to unpack about this whole thing. And yes, the racism is a big component. Just the fact that he's a white male in this society that teaches white men to aggress their negative feelings rather than to process them. Yeah. To take any kind of negative feelings that they have and bottle them up and then turn them into a violent act rather than ever self-confronting. These are all huge problems. And America has a white male problem.
Yeah.
I think white men are a fucking issue in this country, and we're not dealing with it. You know, the people who raise, who raised this guy when he needed to know that he was safe and to know that he was supported and okay. Instead, he was told that he was not okay and that he can't have feelings and a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
But then, because he went to fucking Baptist church, he was told something extra, something even worse, which was that all of his sexuality, everything about him that could be considered sexual is evil. And I think that pathologizing your sex in that way is, well, I mean, it's very clearly dangerous.
Yeah.
And this is, and this seems like a very obvious potential outcome of that kind of evangelical, and people are going to hate that I'm going to use this term, but toxic masculinity. This sense that, you know, the evangelicals basically teach, and, you know, I'm going to borrow from Chrissy Stroop, who wrote for Religion Dispatches here, who grew up in evangelicalism and actually knows quite a bit about it, who was talking about sort of the flip side of secular rape culture, which is religious purity culture. And that religious purity culture teaches boys that they are essentially lust monsters.
Wow.
And teaches girls on the other side that it's their responsibility to not enrage that lust monster by showing a shoulder or an ankle, or, you know, by accidentally having sexual feelings of their own, or, you know, it's somehow this horrible monster lives in the men, and the need to tame that, the responsibility for the actions of that monster, lives in the women.
It makes sex terrifying. It casts it in this just absolutely horrible light, right? Sex and sexuality,
100%.
right? Like, it's just...
It's, yeah,
so
literally.
Fucking gross.
You know, and then, you know, these guys pathologize everything, so they have to hide any part of themselves that's sexual, so it goes underground. So they go and they look at a lot of porn.
Yeah.
And then, and by the way, studies have shown that, you know, religious men, especially evangelical men, are more likely to self-diagnose as sex addicted, which this kid claimed to be, or pornography addicted.
Right.
When they're not. They're just so desperately repressed that they don't know what to think about their own feelings. They don't process their own feelings. It's just buried, and it just becomes this evil sort of magma temperature core that they don't know what to do with.
Right. Oh, and then you have a neighbor who describes the shooter's family. They came across as a good Christian family. They used to go to church on a regular basis, and I've never seen anything bad out of them because they were good
Christians. Did you
Christians.
see his facial hair? What about that?
Ooh,
that's not good enough for you?
Fuck. Don't look it up. It's not good. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's that's all it also takes, right? To be a good person.
Right. You just put on a
church.
show.
Yeah. You go to church and you get all this horrible things, you know, told to you about you and who you are and your motivations and
how you're not good enough. You're evil. And the Lord is watching everything you do and judging everything you do. So yeah, if you slip up, if you feel that you really need to have sex and you go to a massage parlor and pay for that sex, you're so bad that it would be better. Like, this kid was clearly so addled in his brain about this concept that it seemed a better idea for him to go and shoot other people to make this problem their problem, not his problem.
Right.
That made more sense than just, maybe go to a therapist, maybe go to a whatever, or do some work on yourself. No, you can't do work on yourself. You gotta, this is the nightmare. The nightmare is, this kid going and murdering a bunch of people is a nightmare, but the real nightmare is what is underneath it, what's causing it, what's causing an epidemic problem throughout the country.
Yeah. Well, imagine the numbers of people who have enough of a compass to know that they can't go do this, but are suffering as this kid was suffering. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
look, on a much smaller scale, I was that kid. You know what I mean? Like, I was so messed up about sex as a kid. I would go out and, I would have some sort of sexual encounter with a girl, not even like sort of the full penetrative sex thing, but I would touch somebody's boobs or something. And that could have just been a fun, playful, enjoyable moment for me, learning about my sexuality, learning about women, just exploring.
Yeah.
And instead it was torturous, and I would rack myself about it and spend the next several weeks praying to God, begging for forgiveness, knowing that I was a shit human being. And then the real icing on the cake is that then I was awful to the woman, to the girl, because I would be like, we can never do this again. And I would put my fucking guilt. I never blamed the girl. So at least I can say I didn't go that far, but I would pour my guilt all over her about my own actions. And so, it's not like that's a pleasant thing to have happen. I was awful. It was a nightmare. And it took me decades to extract it. And there's still shit in me from this religious because high pressure, sex is evil type religious upbringing is poison that works its way into every part of your psyche.
Yeah. That's true.
And you had the added benefit of being gay. So, like, what a fucking mind fuck it is then.
Well, thanks for reminding me of it.
Well,
no,
you
I live it. I live it
gay?
every day. No, thank for reminding me of the mind fuckery of the whole thing. Like the years of agony,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
All of that agony, all of that pain that all of these people are going through.
Yeah.
Men going through, it's a very different experience what women go through, but equally agonizing, this purity culture bullshit where, all of the responsibility somehow falls on women. Mm-hmm. And, in this case, it's again the responsibility falling on the women, and they're killed for it.
Yeah.
I think it is such an ugly, stupid, unnecessary thing that is basically just religion's fault.
I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, I think. Like, I mean, I think that I don't even know that we need to say much more, right? Like that's the point. That is what went wrong. That's what led to this. Yeah. And I'm sure that that as more details come out, there might be some, hatred toward Asian Americans worked in there.
Yeah.
Or Asians in general.
There might be any number of other things. And who knows, we could be entirely wrong about this guy and still not be wrong about the conclusion.
There you go. Yep.
Because the fact of the matter is that this is happening all over the place, regardless of this guy. Yep. This is just like, one instance where it went as horribly awry as it could possibly go.
Yeah.
Ooh. So,
well, on that note, have a good rest of your day or night, guys.
Listen, Yeah, there's not an uplifting message here other than, guess what? We are actually slowly in this country, gently and annoyingly slowly getting rid of the religion and learning more and more from the science. So onward and upward, get out there, believe the science, don't believe the religion, and you know, things will just get better and better. And there you go. So if you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation, you can be a big bummer just like we are. And write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. Tell us how religion fucked you over. Yeah. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, hey, look, go to the Facebook page. I know you're not on Facebook anymore. Nobody is. But do it anyway. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button.
And if you'd like to join the Members Only Lounge on Facebook, you can do so by going to our website instead. thankgodimatheist.com/members-only, and it will take you to the Members Only Lounge.
Like magic.
Yeah, and
like
then you should also
fucking magic.
And then you should also follow us on Twitter @TGIAtheist.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We sure do appreciate it.
Bye-bye.